Well, folks, if you are a fan of Tyler Perry, a new film from his studio came out a couple of days ago on Netflix entitled Ruth and Boaz. Now, this wasn't a Tyler Perry production where he did everything. No, this is actually part of a joint venture between Devon Franklin and Tyler Perry to come out with, family, Christian, faith-based films. And if you are familiar with the biblical story of Ruth and Boaz, you kind of know the story beats of this movie. It wasn't terribly long either. It was about subtracting the credits. 1 hour, 26 minutes. So it was an easy watch. If you want my full on review, you'll have to go to my other channel, Our Kind of Entertainment. Ruth and Boaz ending explain it was all Ruth's fault. Now, that's why I'm doing this video. I wanted to get some more thoughts on this because in the comments of my initial video, there were those who thought, no, Jeremy, this wasn't Ruth's fault. And there were others who were like, yeah, I mean, now that you say it out loud, it kind of was her fault. So when I look at the film, her former manager, Cy, he basically was the person who discovered Ruth. I think he said he stopped by like a gas station or a 7-Eleven, just like a convenience store, and overheard her singing as she was stocking up the shelves. And from there, her and her friend became a group called 404. Now, they sing a bunch of secular, raunchy music. And that was going to help them come up because Jermaine Dupri mentioned how, you know what, I think I see a future for you all at So Def. And there's an 8-figure contract on the line. Now, when she's in the studio recording, you could tell that she's not feeling the music. So her and her friend have a heart-to-heart, and she talks about how this really isn't what we envisioned when we were younger, writing songs and whatnot together. And her friend is like, girl, look, I get what you're saying, but we live in a rundown community. We shop at a discount store. We need this to change our lives. And you talk about all the time about having faith and praying and whatnot, but how do you know this isn't God's blessing right here? And from there, you have Ruth just walking out of the recording booth. And then she goes to her manager in the car who's waiting for them, to do their recording. And she says how she's done. So he gets out of the vehicle and, goes up to her and goes, look, you can't just go. Not only is there an 8-figure contract on the line here, but I invested $250,000, basically $250,000 into 404. So what you need to do is go back in there and record. And once you fulfilled your contract with me, then you're free to go out there and do whatever you want. So she's like, look, here's $3,000 and here's the keys to the car you bought me. And he's like, no, this ain't enough. And it's like, I can, work and make payments and whatnot. And like, no, that's not how it goes. And he warns her that if you just up and leave, this isn't going to turn out good. Like anything you try to build outside of, 404, I will destroy it. So she just leaves. And I'm thinking like, that didn't make sense to me. Now, don't get me wrong. One, I completely understand. Her heart wasn't in it. She didn't want to become a sellout because I feel like that's the way she viewed it in terms of me pursuing this path in the music industry and whatnot. It's not true to who I am. And it's not the brand that I want to associate myself with. I understand that. But as Cy said, she signed a contract with him. I mean, and I'm not talking about the 8-figure deal. I'm talking about the deal that her and her girl have with Cy. And he's in the whole $250K. And not only that, Ruth walking out means that 8-figure contract with So Def is going to be up in smoke. So he's the loser in all this. And her friend, like she said, this is our ticket out of here. So Ruth not going through with this means that her chance at a better livelihood is gone as well. So yet again, I have to say, while I understand Ruth's motivation, it just didn't gel with me because I don't think the script took enough time to really flesh it out. Now that leads to Sai's. While I understand the motivation for his actions don't necessarily match up to the situation Ruth put him in. So he arranged for a carjacking of Ruth's boyfriend, who just so happened to be with his father at the time. But then it turned fatal because the carjacking, which was supposed to just spook Ruth, turned out to be fatal because they both ended up killed. So essentially, Sai arranged his carjacking, and then when word of the carjacking got back to Ruth, she'd be like, oh no, like this is my fault, and I better go back and record. No. Basically, Naomi lost her husband and son, who was dating Ruth at the time, because Ruth opted not to do the music stuff. Now, some fans made a good point. Jeremy, I don't think that's her fault because she didn't know Sai was going to do that. To be fair, I agree. She didn't know Sai would go to those extreme lengths to get her back. But here's where the problem really does apply here. Because another fan said, you know what? While I don't blame her for what initially happened to Naomi's son and husband, what happened later, I definitely think is Ruth's fault. Because later when she's in Tennessee with Naomi, and there's a video of her circulating online from when she was singing at a karaoke bar, she gets a text from Sai, or either Sai or her friend from back in ATL saying, hey, Sai saw that video and knows you're in Tennessee. He sent somebody to find you. And she still kept her mouth shut. At that point, it's like, okay, anything that happens from this point on is your fault because you know trouble is heading your way and you're not saying anything about it. So then that leads to Boaz and his winery getting burnt down because Sai finds out where Naomi is. And I can't even say wholeheartedly that Sai even knows the connection between Boaz and Ruth. He shows up to the bar and just was seconds away from missing Ruth. And he goes up to the bartender with his phone saying, hey, here's a video a woman singing. Do you know her? Ruth? Yeah. She comes in here from time to time. Well, do you know like where she is, who she be with? Well, sometimes I see her with that dude over there in VIP, and that's it. That's all he knows. He goes up to him and asks, you own the winery place? Yeah. You know this woman? Yeah, I know of her, Ruth. You know where she is right now? I saw her video and I want to sign her at a record label. And that's all he gets. He doesn't really get anything. And he just walks off. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I want to burn this dude's place down. I guess maybe he put two and two together because when she got on stage to sing, she did say, I wrote this song for Boaz. And yeah. So either way, by the end of the film, when Sai and his bodyguard get arrested, that's when Ruth says, this is all my fault. And that's when Naomi is like, don't blame yourself for what that man did. And Boaz is like, yeah, you had a lie of omission. And they pretty much just brush it off. And I feel like this movie would have been a bit stronger if towards the middle of the film, you know, when Naomi starts to warm up to Ruth, because I agree with Naomi. It's like, look, all I know is that you were dating my son and I didn't like you. We met one time at the beginning of the film. And now all of a sudden you're just dropping everything and you're following me to Tennessee. And look, in the Bible, Ruth followed Naomi because she was a dedicated daughter-in-law, even after her husband died. So she went to be her caretaker. Now, when it comes to the movie, yes, you have Ruth overhearing, I believe, Eli, Naomi's deceased husband, I believe like his accountant or lawyer, whoever, telling Naomi about how for the past 3 months, your husband's been in financial debt for quite a while now. And he was trying to, you know, put up his assets in order to kind of make up the difference. But unfortunately, no, he couldn't. And he wanted to keep this secret from you. He said that, you know, within the next few months, things will turn around. But unfortunately, they didn't. So now the house and everything, you've lost it except for this one property in Tennessee. So it's either one or two things, if not both. Like one or two things could be true, if not both. Ruth followed Naomi because she felt guilty and wanted to take care of her because her choices led to what happened to her husband and son. But on the other hand, you could also argue that she split town in order to run away from Sai. So it feels less noble because she was running out of fear and hopped on a bus to get out of Dodge. So towards the middle of the film, I want to say it was after Naomi she was in the hospital for high blood pressure or whatever. And she mentioned like, what happened wasn't your fault and whatnot. And Ruth had this look on her face like, oh my God, is she going to say it is my fault? But she doesn't. So I think what would have worked better is if by the middle of the film, Ruth came clean about her actions. And like, let's say, because Naomi had her own assumptions about Ruth. And I thought something that would come up later in the film would be Ruth revealing like, hey, I believe in God and whatnot. And that's why. And she's like, well, why would you be singing and performing the way you do on stage? Well, I ended up turning down my current record deal because I didn't really want to sing that kind of music anymore. Because one of the most telling moments of the movie was when Naomi gets to her old home and basically throws the cross off the wall, upset at God. And I can understand it because she just lost her son, her husband, her big house. Everything was gone. It felt like Job. Everything was just gone. So while she's at her lowest spiritually, to find out the person she least expected from being a believer could help her turn things around. But then when it's revealed that she was indirectly the cause of her husband and son being murdered, then you can have Naomi kind of turn on Ruth. And then by the end of it, we see Naomi's love for Ruth come through when she picks up that shotgun in order to protect Ruth by firing at Sai and her bodyguard and his bodyguard. Not saying she has to kill him, but just a warning shot would be good enough. So I think that really this film could have been a movie of redemption as opposed to a cookie cutter ending where everything happens in a happy ending, like the fire at Boaz's place caused the wine to turn into the best tasting wine, leading to best in show. And when it comes to Naomi, I mean, she lost everything, and yeah, I don't really know what to make of it. Like I said, this movie gives you a warm feeling inside. It was good. The acting, good script, Naomi's narration, seeing so many, like familiar faces like Babyface, Lecrae, Jermaine Dupri. The acting was solid, but the script itself wasn't strong enough to justify the ending. I just felt like Ruth really didn't suffer consequences. Those around her suffered more than she did when she was the cause of it. Like I said, Sai was the one who took things too far. Like the arranged carjacking that led to Eli and the son, Marlon, the son's death. And then Boaz's winery being set on fire. That was way too uncalled for. But at the end of the day, it all boils back to Ruth just opting to walk out of her contract. And I'm thinking, well, Sai could just sue her. That would just make more sense. Because I get it in the film, Ruth's, friend slash musical partner tried to find a replacement but couldn't find anybody that could sing like her because, there's an 8-figure deal on the line. You're going to do everything you can to replace Ruth or get her back. So I just feel like Ruth, while I get why she made the decision she did, it was selfish. There was no thought in it in terms of me walking away from this means Sai lost $250,000. My girl won't be able to, make money in order to come up in life. And what is she exactly going to do? Because think of it this way. It's just like any musical artist or group or whatever in the business. If they're riddled in debt or caught up in a current contract, nobody's really going to want to mess with them because if I take this artist on, that means I'm going to have to deal with like paying off the former manager and things like that. It's just a whole bunch of red tape. So the best bet would have been Sai suing Ruth, And maybe the threat of lawsuit would be enough for Ruth to go, you know what? It ain't worth it. I'll just go back. I'll do this contract. I'll do these records and whatnot. And then once we're done, hey. I mean, look at artists like Lady Gaga. They come out with a gimmick and whatnot. And once they are established and everything, that's when they, do the artistry that they want to do, not necessarily what sells. So, yeah, at the end of it all, it's really Ruth's fault. And I do feel like she certainly should have faced more backlash or consequences for what she did, as opposed to, yay, I get to become a legit recording artist, recording music I want to. I get married to this great man and all this stuff. So, yeah. It's just like so many people had to suffer for her to have a happy ending, and I didn't really like that. That's just my personal opinion. But it would have been better if, let's say, what's his name, Marlon, the son, was an asshole or something, and he was shoving Ruth into this life when he really wasn't. If nothing else, he was like, I don't really know what your issue is. I mean, you're good at what you do. You and your friend are coming up. And she's like, look, it's like, you don't get it. But it didn't feel like there was any animosity there. It's like he legitimately was worried about, like, why aren't you into this? And when it comes to her friend, yeah, you're both from like the projects and whatnot. You're about to make the come up, and now your friend's getting cold feet because this isn't how she wants to make a come up. Yeah, but if you watch the film, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.